on News Radio WGNS.
The Good Neighbor Network, FM 101.9 and AM 1450 Murfreesboro, FM 100.5 Smyrna, and online at WGNSradio.com. This is the Roundtable. A look at the news, views, politics, and people that are shaping Rutherford County.
Good morning. This is Bill Kraus on a beautiful Thursday morning. Hope you're all doing well. Hope you're happy and hope it's going to be a great, great day for you. We have a delightful young lady who will be our visitor this morning, Dawn Stone. And as we do every week, we first like to learn all about our visitor, where she was born, where she went to school, how the journeys of life have taken her to this point that she's on the Roundtable on WGNS. Good morning, Dawn.
Good morning, Dr. Kraus. How are you?
I am doing marvelously. Born where, raised where, live where, did what, and going where?
Oh, my goodness. That's such a loaded question. I am a native of Nashville, Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
I was born in the St. Thomas Hospital,
Right.
which they now call Midtown for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
And I grew up public school educated, Tom Joy, etc. What's funny about my connection to Murfreesboro is I'm a graduate of the Middle Tennessee State University.
Wow.
Yeah.
What was your major?
Of course, business.
Business, okay.
By way of marketing.
And did you enjoy parking at MTSU?
Oh, come on, Dr. Kraus.
I always rib the people. We had the president a few weeks back, Dr. McPhee.
Yes.
And I said, Dr. McPhee, you've got a marvelous, marvelous university, but where do you park? And he said, well, we have a tram. I said, when I taught there for a number of years, I walked. Great exercise.
Yes.
A mile to Peck Hall, a mile back to the parking lot.
Absolutely. And at least you were a professor, so they only have 38 student slots. I promise it's 38. I promise.
I must have parked in the student lot. I didn't realize we had special parking. And when you graduated, where did your journey take you?
Okay, so I worked for an organization. So I'm about to date myself. So I worked for an organization called Northern Telecom. So I was in the telecommunications industry. I did that for 6 years, and that was in Nashville. So literally as a MTSU student, I was a Inroads alum. So Inroads is an organization, a nonprofit, a national nonprofit that services students of color in high school and college. And what they do, prepare us for community and corporate careers.
Responsibilities.
Yes. And so I was a intern, and I turned that into a part-time job. So I literally 3 days out of a week was driving to and from Nashville to go and work for Nortel and also come and complete my courses here at MTSU. And so after that, I went to graduate school at the University of Tennessee in Knoxville.
Oh, so you covered both of the two largest schools in the state.
Absolutely. And that's why I like to say I'm homegrown. So all of my education has been here, and it has made quite a unique set of experiences for me. So
was your major at UT also business marketing?
Of course. It was business administration. I have an MBA, and I worked while I was there, I worked for a little slight intern at Coca-Cola. I also went to Nabisco. So I wanted the classical marketing experience. So during those 2 years, I spent time in those organizations. So being able to work with Nabisco right before the merger with Kraft, I was living in East Hanover, New Jersey.
Wow.
And
That's a long road from Knoxville.
It is. It is. And so, I got to work on great cookies. I was in the cookie
Oh, do you
business.
still eat the cookies?
Oh, I do.
Okay, chocolate chip?
We had a battle. I am an
Okay.
Oreo.
Oh,
I'm an
okay.
Oreo baby. And so.
And you broke them apart to eat
Yes,
the
of course.
cream in
Twist,
between.
lick, and dunk.
Yep. And dunk it in a cup of coffee.
Or milk. For
Or
me, it
milk.
was milk.
Gotcha.
It was milk. So, did that. Had a great time. And then
Was New Jersey a different experience for
it
you?
was. And at first I thought I was not going to like it, but it is truly the Garden State. So where I lived, it was beautiful. I watched deer on my way home every day. It was great.
Did people always pass the buck?
They do. Dun-dun-dun.
Sorry about that. Okay.
They
That
do.
was dedicated to your mother, Marilyn.
Yeah, shout out to Marilyn, storyteller. Yes. So I left there and traded in those chips and cookies for a different chip and moved to Austin, Texas to work for Dell.
Wow. You were traveling to the Northeast and to the Southwest and all points in between.
Loved it. Yes.
You must
yes,
have loved
yes.
Austin. Austin is
I
a beautiful city.
loved Austin.
Austin is Nashville in Texas.
It is. And there's a big argument too. And that's also the home of the other UT,
Right.
which we will not talk about
Exactly.
because I tell them we are the 13th oldest institution in the nation. Check your history. So they would leave oranges on my desk whenever UT Knoxville lost.
Oh.
Yeah.
Which wasn't too often in
It
those
wasn't.
days.
Right.
Exactly. So you were in Austin and you were working for Dell.
Yes.
Did you enjoy Dell?
I love Dell. So being a woman, a black woman in tech during that time, it was very, very odd, very rare.
It was a brand new experience.
It was. And I was in marketing at first. And then I transferred back to Nashville to work on the sales side.
Gotcha.
So I was still at Dell for, I think, 4 years.
Was that
Ooh.
during Dell's primary growth period? I mean,
Yes,
there was the
and
boom area of
the
Dell.
last of boom. So I was there literally 6 months for the last split. So they had 3 splits in a row between like 18 and 20/21. And then
Wow.
the decline started. So that's when we had the migration from Windows 95.
Correct.
And then they had the XP and all the software with Microsoft because they were a big partner. So I got to work on a lot of great projects.
Great experience.
Great experience.
And from there, did you decide to go out on your own?
Not yet.
Not yet? Okay.
You know, I am my mother's child. We're gonna have a consistent, predictable pattern. So I went back to school.
Where'd you go? Back to MTSU?
This time, no, I went to another Tennessee school, Lipscomb University,
Okay.
and I secured a master's in conflict resolution.
Excellent. Excellent.
And ironically, Dr. Kraus, I use that degree more than any of the ones that I've had because people are always in conflict.
So you worked with the former President Randy?
Yes, I did.
I knew Randy when he was at Pepperdine.
Oh, goodness.
And he was teaching conflict
Yes.
management, conflict resolving.
Yes, that's my life goal. My bucket list is to go and teach and live in Malibu, California, and teach at Pepperdine.
I do have to tell you one thing about that campus.
Yes.
It's built on a large mountain.
It is.
And when you park in the parking lot and you walk up that mountain, if you have a bad heart, you will not make it.
You won't?
You have a good heart, you will keep it.
Yep. And I think that's a great
Sure.
representation of why I need to be in Malibu.
So long as you don't have to drive through Los Angeles.
Oh, truth.
And I'm assuming you can afford Malibu by the time
Well, you can
you're
always-
earning. Exactly.
You know, I have a plan for that.
Gotcha. So after Lipscomb, then what?
So I started, okay, this is when your heart changes, right? So I had this whole life experience, had children, recently divorced, and I said, you know what? I'm going to begin my give back. And so I started working for nonprofits. And so the nonprofit that I partnered with the first round was Tennessee Prison Outreach Ministry. So that master's degree afforded me the opportunity to work with men, women, and children impacted by the justice system or the
And
legal
for a second
system.
chance and a
For
second
a
opportunity.
sometimes third and maybe 300. But the thing that I really enjoyed most about that is I discovered a lot about myself. And then I was able to take those skills from those 3 degrees and teach other people. So that's where entrepreneurship really started to blossom for me.
You got
And
the scent.
I did, and I wanted to do more of it. So I helped them become entrepreneurs, and I had started several businesses of my own since then, too.
Excellent. So today, tell us about what Dawn is doing today in making life better for the world around her.
Yes, I actually am a proud owner and speaker, consultant, and coach within the conflict resolution space as the Conflict Chick LLC.
Conflict Chick.
Yep.
I love that. Yeah, that even is better than what we said off the air. You're the dawn of life.
Yes.
But the Conflict Chick. I love that. And you don't lay any eggs.
I don't.
Okay.
Not anymore.
And that's no yolk. Sorry about that. I even heard that from another room. Sorry about that.
I love it. I love it.
All righty, moving on. If
I
you
love
can't
it.
have a good laugh on a morning and you can't enjoy other people with a good laugh, life is not worth living.
Definitely
despite
not.
the seriousness, despite the divisions, despite the uncertainty, despite the conflict, we have to have a good laugh among us at all times.
Absolutely.
Not laugh at people, laugh with people.
That's right. Was it laugh therapy? That's a whole thing. You know, there's research around that.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Physically well-being as well as mentally or psychologically.
Yes.
So you started the chick business.
Yes.
And what year?
That okay. So here's a true story. I officially started this journey in conflict resolution 13 years ago. But I went through a rebrand in 2016. So before I was the conflict chick, I was conflict and communication specialist. And people were like, what is that?
Yes. How do you put it on a business card?
It was very difficult,
Yes,
right?
yes.
It was like in 2 font. So I've been the official conflict chick since 2016.
Wow. And you basically contract with corporations,
Yes.
organizations
Yes.
throughout the
Schools.
world, as
Yes.
I understand.
Absolutely.
And how do you recommend conflict if, for example, your client is in Japan and the culture and the environment of Japan and how people look at their lives and look at their passion and commitment to work and look at their commitment to society? How do you deal with a different set of ethics and values?
Very good question. So part of the work that I do is centered around diversity, equity, and inclusion, and that's a global thing. So I know in the United States, it's really been under attack lately. But what I do is share with my clients, corporations, and individuals who come to me, and to say, hey, where are we? So that's the D in it. That's the diversity. Looking at those 29 elements, the things that make us individuals yet very different from experiences. Location, all of that factors in. So with my client who was in Japan, she just relocated here, but I had to talk about the culture, and we had to look at the culture within that set because her fiance was actually Japanese. And so with her being a black woman married to a Japanese, there's a lot of cultural differences.
Separation.
Yes. And so we worked through it and walked through it, also did that with her mate and put together a plan to help her transition nicely back into the States and then develop a plan for them long term. And so a lot of times people don't really understand conflict, but conflict is when our differences come to the surface, and we also have past rivalries. So that means any experience you've had that was unpleasant, your brain is going to immediately protect you. It's like, oh, you don't want to go there. Oh, you don't want to do this.
Forget it.
Right? And then that's also mixed in with our personalities and all the things that make us uniquely different. So it's not just the intersectionality. It's our experiences, it's our desires, it's who we are. And so once you understand that everybody has it, there's not one human body, even animals have conflict. Have you seen a hungry bird?
Or two dogs.
Or two dogs? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's like they're going to compete. Hey,
Or survival of the fittest. For example, when you
Correct.
see a large bird attack a small bird.
yes. Yes.
It becomes a question. I don't want to be controversial, but I do want to
Yes.
raise a question on diversity.
Yes.
And I have this asked to me at a lot of classes by a lot of students. One thing about diversity, in my understanding, you want to value and understand each person and their differences. But isn't the follow-up what brings us together?
Yeah.
What are the elements of unity? So I
Absolutely.
think, from my own opinion, I think we can totally respect, love if we may, enjoy each person's difference, what they bring to the table. But we also want to examine what are our similarities. Are our values similar? Are goals similar? Are diverse interests similar? And how do we build on the unity after we respect and identify each of us as individuals?
You're exactly right. And so the fun part of what you just said is everything you're saying is exactly right. But here's where people go wrong. So if you think about the fundamentals, ABCs, people's attitudes and their actions dictate how they are receptive to your particular interest
Exactly.
or intersectionality, right? They just may not like people from the South, right? When I worked in New England, for example, they would say, "You're from where? You don't sound like a person from Tennessee." And I said, "What does a person from Tennessee sound like?"
Y'all.
Yeah.
Did you say y'all?
But you know what's funny? When they told me they could hear my accent when I said the month of July.
Oh, really?
Because I said it's so hot, we say it's July.
Oh.
It's Tennessee hot.
Uh-huh.
And so that's the A. And so the B's are the behaviors and the beliefs. So that gets into the value system that you were talking about. Because people have values that they bring into a space.
Sure.
And then again, it's like your values may be different, but am I willing to look at the similarities? Look at the things that make us uniquely the same as opposed to uniquely different. And am I willing to honor that? Right? And then that gets you to the C, people's culture, context, and people's competency in dealing with their own internal and external angst.
Exactly. Exactly. The query becomes, you started with the attitude mentioning, and what I specifically share with students, I said, never forget the 2 A's. And my 2 A's as an employee are attitude and aptitude. Attitude, how you convey yourself to other people.
Yes.
And aptitude, the ability, readiness, and willingness to learn.
Correct.
And I say to young students, when you're starting a job, always remember your attitude and your aptitude to learn to be a better contributing employee in that organization will make the difference between success and failure. So you want to be sure that the attitude and aptitude, when you're consulting, when you're meeting with a team, how do you change your attitude, or can you? Can they change it themselves? Can somebody say, I've been a grouchy person their whole life, I'm not a morning person, I better have 3 cups of coffee. I'm grouchy in the morning, don't talk to me. On the other hand, can you change attitude?
Absolutely, you can. Your brain tells you. So this thing called neuroplasty. So those of us who are neuroscientists or love neuroscience in general, there was a big component of my degree at Lipscomb University. Shout out Lipscomb for the work that they put into that particular component. Because neuroplasty means that's the part of your brain that can forever change, right? So you think about my willingness to learn. If you're a life learner and you're willing to add new information, new data, new content, then I can change my attitude because I now have new information. Once you have the new information, that knowledge has to become applied knowledge. And how do we apply knowledge? Practice.
Practice makes perfect. But on the other hand, are we today, and I especially worry about our young people, can we be over information? Is there too much information out there to process? And how do we pick and choose? How do we pick the vegetables to be correct and the fruits to be delightful? How do we pick and choose from the massive amount of information that comes to us through regular communication, through social media?
Yes.
Does that subtly create a confusion state on the part of a young man or young woman? Or any of us? Age doesn't have to play an element.
It doesn't. And so what's interesting about that, I have to say, take information in doses. So this is the same information that my professors have given me over the years at all universities, right? So I had 2 years of a doctorate at Vanderbilt University, Peabody College, and that's the one thing we talked about, behavior, human behavior. And so we are receiving thousands upon thousands of impressions every single day. And so what we have to do to interrupt that noise is to turn some of this stuff off.
Exactly.
Look at your resources and look at what is called a valid or relevant resource. So it can't just be our opinions, right? Let it be a reputable source that allows you to get some information, but then just take in a little at a time. we're not all fire hydrants. And some of us
Exactly.
take in, which is one of the differences, neurodiversity. Some of us can take in a lot of information.
Correct. The one thing I will say to all of my students in political science,
Yes.
always start out either an essay when you're writing first paragraph or a comment in participation. In my opinion, this is how I call it. You know,
Yes.
I think one of the major issues we have today in the divisiveness of politics is the fact that people give their opinions as it is fact. And the query becomes, you don't believe my fact? Something's wrong with you. You're discriminating against me because you don't believe my fact. One of the interesting points is how to determine whether the fact is correct, partially incorrect, or totally incorrect. And that's a process that you really have to work at. Sometimes it makes you a little caustic. You don't believe anything. I don't
Right.
believe anything I hear. I don't believe anything I read because it's so full of opinion rather than justified fact.
Yep.
And you know what's interesting? Your grandson, and you take a look at your grandson's age, and you take a look at that age 20, 30, 40, 60 years ago, what a 6, 7-year-old child had the ability and access to learn, and what they face now and having to learn. It's unbelievable.
It is.
Unbelievable. I truly worry, you know, in terms of we have the technology for information, but do we know how to use it?
Ooh. Dr. Kraus, you said a mouthful. You said a
I brushed
mouthful.
my teeth this morning, so I would be prepared for it.
Well, you know, it's interesting you say that because I do have a son who is neurodivergent. And what we have found is his brain is still brighter than mine every day of the week, right?
And the creativity,
And the creativity.
that's key.
But you know how we get that minus the devices? Because we are too connected. So you're talking about this whole theory of connectedness versus connectivity. Connectivity is where we are with these microphones and radio and emails and texts and Snapchat and all the apps. But connectedness is that body physical connection
Exactly.
that is missing in a lot of spaces. So for us to really be and get the true essence of us moving forward and getting the right information, because unfortunately more people believe the sensational fake news over the real news.
Headline news
Yeah,
rather than
headline news.
data news.
And
you started out your consulting business in the middle of the pandemic?
I
To a
did.
degree. So you were
I
looking for
did.
communications
I
for people
was.
when they were not physically near each other.
Correct.
We'll talk more about that in a minute or so after we pay some bills. We'll be right back.
Finding that missing shin guard, remembering whether it's a home or away game, getting the right kid to the right playing field on the right day. Why are simple things sometimes so complicated? Thankfully, with auto owners, insurance doesn't have to be one of them. We work with independent agents who keep insurance simple so you can worry about more important things, like not being that fan. Oh, come on, ref! That's simple human sense.
Rayburn Insurance in Smyrna.
Come see me, Rick Hall, at Rayburn Insurance in downtown Smyrna today.
As a leader in environmental services, sustainability is deeply integrated into our business model. At Middle Point Landfill, we are environmentalists at heart. We use a cutting-edge technology in combination with our deep experience in recycling and waste services to protect our environment and our neighbors. That's our job, and that's our promise. This is Mike Klassen with Middle Point Landfill. We invite you to learn more about us at middlepointlandfill.com. Republic Services. We are sustainability in action.
Hey guys, this is Scott. You know, there's a lot of people talking about testosterone. I was one of them at one point, but I'm here to say you need to do your homework and go to a provider that you can trust. I went to Low T Center. That's where I get my levels checked, and they specialize in men's wellness and customized testosterone treatment. You walk in, take a simple blood test, and with their on-site lab, you'll get your results back in about 25 minutes. So if you've been feeling tired, grumpy, noticed a weight gain, and loss of muscle mass, these could could all be signs of low testosterone levels. Low T Center is not a typical doctor's office where you have a long wait. Low T Center is literally concierge medicine exclusively for men, and they have affordable, convenient treatment options, including physician-monitored self-inject treatments that ship directly to your home each month, so there's no need to drive to the center for weekly visits. Right now, it's only $25 to get your testosterone level tested with results back in 25 minutes. Go to lowtcenter.com to book your appointment online today. That's lowtcenter.com. Low T Center, reinventing men's healthcare.
This is Good Neighbor Events with Bart Walker. Brought to you by the law offices of John Day and AmeriCare Pest Control.
This is a paid legal ad.
Hi, this is John Day of the law offices of John Day. I've lived and worked as a lawyer in Middle Tennessee for over 30 years, and to me, every single day has been an honor. That's why our firm is so involved with community programs like bicycle helmet giveaways and our Safe Ride Home program. At the law offices of John Day, we're not just looking to make donations. We want to make a difference in the community we hold so dear. And if you're ever injured, know that we are here for you too.
WGNS has been keeping you informed for 77 years. The Red Cross is critically low on blood. In fact, they're at the lowest level of donors since 2 decades ago. So let's get together and give the gift of life. Phone the Red Cross and set a time to give blood when it fits your schedule. Phone now, 800-RED-CROSS, and you'll save a life. The Rutherford County Retired Teachers meets next week. Not this week, but next Tuesday, February the 13th, 1:30 in the afternoon, and that's over at Greenhouse Ministries on South Academy Street. Don't miss this meeting. Very interesting one. It's about the history of Rutherford County education. It's presented by Bill Shacklett and Greg Tucker. Again, the Rutherford County Retired Teachers meeting will be next week, Tuesday, February 13th, 1:30 in the afternoon at Greenhouse Ministries on South Academy Street. And for more Good Neighbor events, check our website, wgnsradio.com. And those are WGNS Good Neighbor events.
Good Neighbor weather. Partial sunshine develops here this afternoon with a high in the mid-60s. And then for tonight, a chance for rain late, mostly cloudy, a low near 51. I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki on News Radio WGNS.
Currently, it's 50. WGNS is powered by Middle Tennessee Electric. United Communications, MTE's internet company, is growing fast and will continue to expand on its more than 3,600 route miles of fiber, covering portions of Rutherford and surrounding counties with 99.99% reliability.
This is the Roundtable from News Radio WGNS on FM 101.9 and AM 1450 Murfreesboro, FM 100.5 Smyrna, and worldwide at WGNSradio.com.
Bill Kraus here in the next segment of the Roundtable on WGNS Thursday morning. A delightful visit with Dawn Stone, who is a tremendous spirit and force in consulting. Not just a traditional consultant who brings a briefcase and goes to a client, but a consultant who shares her heart, shares her spirit, shares her insight, and shares her perception. And you're working on your doctorate degree, and I had missed that on our self-introduction earlier. Talk about that for a moment.
Oh my goodness. It's the lovely perfectionist, the recovering perfectionist, Dr. Kraus. So I love learning, and that was always something that was on my radar at the age of 16. So I said, why not now? So I have, kids that could create that educational legacy for them. But yeah, I spent 2 years working on my doctorate from Peabody College, which is at Vanderbilt University, in their online program.
And in consulting. Or
yes, it was leadership and learning in organizations. So yes, to make me a better consultant, to understand how human behavior, all the goodness of people in organizations, why people act and perform the way that they do. And I also had a couple of intersectionalities that I was looking at around gender and race and class.
How about age?
Yes.
Have you had that? Okay.
I have. And I do a lot of that in my business, believe it or not.
And handicap? I'm thinking of all the
Yes.
civil rights
Yes.
criteria.
The abilities. They call it the disabilities in parentheses or in a bracket, disabilities. I call it abilities because, it's only different.
You still have in front of you your dissertation. Have you thought of a topic?
Yes, actually, I have many research interests, but I'm really interested in creating scholars in non-traditional students.
Excellent. Oh, wow.
And so,
define a non-traditional from your vantage point.
yes, it's so full. He's having me bring all this up. I'm so excited. But a non-traditional student is a student who has had, let's say, several opportunities to be different. So a non-traditional student for me is someone who is an adult learner, who is pursuing education, higher education again. It's also a person who has or is currently incarcerated. So I actually teach. I've taught inside the prison system here at the Attorney Center, which is a mid-security prison located in Hickman County, about an hour and a half away from here. So getting associates, and some of them end up with bachelors behind the wall. And so for me, those are the non-traditional students that I enjoy, and people who are not U.S. born, who are here learning and growing. They're having to learn language. They're having to learn cultures. They're also having to finance their ways. So I like the students who have the want the knowledge, but necessarily don't have the access, and who have had many troubles trying to get
stumbles along the path.
Yes. Give me anyone. So I one of the programs where I presented a paper was talking about bringing college education to the corners. And so literally going and dealing with kids instead of them being dope boys or runners, actually learning a skill. So I use entrepreneurship as a way for them to gain skills and employment for themselves. So that's a non-traditional student for me. I'm all for it.
I've told the story on the air probably several times with guests, but I love to repeat it because it came right back to memory when I ran into the young lady at school yesterday. A few years ago, a lady lost her husband in Murfreesboro after 60 years of marriage. She was in significant grief. Her family said, "Mom, you've got to go do something. You've got to get out of the house. You've got to at least rebuild your life. You ought to go back to school, take a class." So they finally convinced her, and when she came to Montlow, the admissions people initially signed her up with me, and I had her in American government, and she hadn't been in school since high school, which was a lot of years previously. And so I took her under my arm, and I said, "We're going to make you not only succeed in this class, you will graduate. And when you graduate, when you go in commencement ceremonies, your family will be so proud that there you are in cap and gown to graduate." I said, "That's the legacy you want to create." So I saw her yesterday after a long period of time. I think she's in her last class, ready for graduation. She took each class and took the challenges, took the opportunities. I said, "So you're going to go with my wish that you graduate?" She says, "I'm too old to walk." I said, "I'll carry you down the threshold of the commencement just so your family sees you in cap and gown and set that legend, set that love, set that example for grandchildren and great-grandchildren." So most hopefully this spring we'll see her at graduation.
Yes.
But that's what it's about. You're talking about working with men and women who are incarcerated.
Yes.
How do you deal with their recognizing conflict? After all, they're a product of conflict, whether it's body conflict in terms of crime against person or crime against property. How do you deal with conflict resolving in their own minds?
Oh my goodness. So such a great question. So I've been working with incarcerated individuals and children in detention since 2007. And so what we do is work on the mind. we work on the mind. And so we talk about how that experience was, framed in some form of conflict, and then help them with the tools to get them onto a new path, new thinking, new behaviors, different attitudes, some of the stuff we were talking about earlier. And what really happens, they are looking for something else. So I see it as a real rehabilitation tool that I wish our country specifically, because we incarcerate people at a higher rate, and especially people of color and people who have, I call it green, black, brown, green. Okay. People who don't have the money. And so what happens is they're put in a place and held, and their mind is the first thing to start wandering, start thinking, start, just chaos. And so I literally started my mediation hours, like thousands of hours have been with people behind the wall. So I was teaching parenting classes. Some people have lost their children and are incarcerated because of crimes against their own kids, either at their hand or not. Like, I remember a couple classes where a boyfriend put a child in a tub that was too hot, right? While she was at Walmart. She's incarcerated and he was too. And so you think about the shame and the anger and all the things that she felt at 23 years old.
And you take a look at that landmark decision by a Michigan court this week. When does a parent accept legal responsibility for a crime conducted by a child? In the case of the mother and soon to be the father who faces trial in March, the wife, the mother, has got some pretty heavy penalties to face for the allowance of a son who shot up a school and killed 4 and injured a series of others. So when does a parent accept criminal responsibility for the actions of their child? And that is precedent setting, to put it mildly.
Absolutely. So that's the policy. So if you think about the conflict of policies that we have that regulate not only parents, the schools, and then also the criminal justice system, the criminal system that houses all this.
Correct. Well, I have always mentioned that one of the key reasons where the judicial system, the criminal justice system, is failing is the question that we will not provide the funding, or the elected officials will not provide the funding for public defenders. And if you take a look at someone who is arrested, they cannot afford their own attorney. They're given a public defender. The caseload of an average public defender throughout the United States is huge. So the public defender ends up negotiating with the district attorney for a sentence or a conviction that both will agree upon. And the suspect, or the person under custody, says, "I'm innocent, I didn't do it." Well, this is the best we can do for you. So you may have to do a year or two because we don't have the resources to investigate and to determine your innocence. And I think that becomes a huge problem, why the incarceration rate is so significant for those who cannot afford it.
Absolutely. And this is a global problem too.
Oh, no question, and depending upon the judicial system of each country, which varies from A to Z. Talk about leadership. I always thought, I'm going to wait for a laugh on this one. I always thought a leadership was a ship that carried wine. I didn't hear your mother. Yes, I did hear the mother. And the leadership. What defines a leader? Can you be a great manager and a poor leader? Can you be a great leader and a poor manager?
Absolutely.
And how do we define each one? And what do we expect from it? When you're talking to a corporation, are you telling them just strategies and techniques of leadership, or are you giving them certain ways of how to be a human leader? And I like to put the term a human leader, not a leader necessarily of policy, procedures, and proposals, but a human leader. How do you define that?
Leadership is the most written, published topic that a lot of people don't even have the credentials to write. But everyone has an opinion, right?
Exactly.
And so leadership, there are, and I was trying to pull it up, but I won't get, we're going to leave the book alone, but there are basically 8 different leadership styles. that we possess in general, and then give or take some variations of it. But we have to understand that, and I love the fact you put the human piece in it. We have to normalize humanity again, because what is happening when we don't care enough to spend the time, the energy, the effort, just like the example you gave with the public defender. Leadership is, I have the power to put you in prison, or I have no power to keep you out of prison. And so how can we move to more of what we call a moral-based human as opposed to a power-based human?
Exactly. I want to talk more about that after the break. You know, it's kind of interesting. Many district attorneys are evaluated by their conviction rate.
Absolutely.
And if the conviction rate exceeds or is in opposition to the human rate, we have some issues.
We do.
We're having a wonderful visit with, and I'm going to say, nobody's ever called you this before, we're visiting with Dr.-elect Dawn Stone. And Dr.-elect Stone will be with us right after these words.
Hi, this is Chip Walters with Exit Realty Bob Lamb & Associates. You might know me as the voice of the Blue Raiders, but I want to be your trusted advisor in real estate. Whether you're buying or selling, it's time to choose Chip. Do you have a growing family and need to upsize? Are you an empty nester now and need to downsize? Are you thinking of selling your current home but just worried you can't find something else? Well, it's time to choose Chip. I'm looking to be your trusted advisor in real estate. I'm Chip Walters with Exit Realty Bob Lamb & Associates.
Murfreesboro loves downtown and all the small businesses. This February, choose to share experiences and gifts from downtown, the place to feel loved. Unique gifts, tasty treats, romantic dinners, and fun experiences. Downtown Murfreesboro, the place to feel loved this February. Support your local small businesses in downtown Murfreesboro this Valentine's. Brought to you by Main Street Murfreesboro.
This is Kim Dunaway from Sunshine Nutrition Center. You hear me on Monday mornings at 7:20 talking about how to lead a healthier lifestyle. We carry supplements, personal care, and grocery items at both our Murfreesboro and Smyrna locations, family owned and operated since 1989.
Here at Bud's Tire, we make buying Michelin tires simpler. I'm Allison Mitchell with Bud's Tire Pros. We offer a straightforward approach to service, including nationwide warranties with every purchase. Stop in today to see our full lineup of Michelin and BF Goodrich tires. For whatever you drive, Michelin and BF Goodrich have a tire to fit any need. Bud's Tire Pros, hassle-free, guaranteed. We're located on East Main Street, exactly 3 miles from the town square, 1 mile past Rutherford Boulevard. Visit us online at budstireprostn.com.
Del Walmsley and the Wealth Cycle. This is the Wealth Cycle that I've taught for 30 years. Buy one house, 10 houses, an apartment, 2 apartments, 8, 20, 500 units, 1,000 units, 2,000, 5,000 units. And as you keep putting the money and the profits back in, you become one of those rich people. And much quicker than you'd even believe.
Learn Dell's Wealth Cycle at GiveMeTotalFreedom.com. Use promo code 2023. Save 60%. Code 2023. GiveMeTotalFreedom.com. GiveMeTotalFreedom.com.
This is the Roundtable from News Radio WGNS on FM 101.9 and AM 1450 Murfreesboro, FM 100.5 Smyrna, and worldwide at WGNSradio.com.
Here we are in the third and final segment of a delightful, wonderful visit with Dawn Stone, who not only can be classified as a consultant or a professional speaker, but truly a human being that has the care and the feel and the sensitivity working with other people. Talk about for a moment companies, individuals, corporations here in Rutherford County. How would they reach you to have you, and I don't like to say have you consulting, but have you be that special breath of new air into the organization that suddenly makes the organization not necessarily more productive, but more motivated? How do they reach you?
Well, they can find me on my social media platforms. I'm on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter, now X, as The Conflict Chick. THE, conflict, and chick with a K, because I'm not chic It's chick.
I love that. I love that. And
YouTube as well. I do have a YouTube channel.
Okay.
The Conflict
Do
Chick.
you have a telephone number too for the old-fashioned people like
You
me?
know, I do. It's a 615-602-6266.
One more time, as I say in the commercials.
615-602-6266. And I answer all my own calls. I do not have a bot. I answer all my own emails. I do not have a bot. Okay.
And that's Dawn Stone. And I assume over the years you've been called a Rolling Stone?
Dun-dun-dun. Yes.
I didn't hear the laugh out in the lobby. But talk one more time about conflict resolving. You have an organization. Much of your time, I would assume, is spent diagnosing what really is the conflict. What's the hidden conflict? What's the conflict that you have to dig deeper to find the core? How do you go into a conflict between two people or between employees and a supervisor, employees and a manager?
Very good question, Dr. Kraus. So here's what happens. People usually contact me as a means of they're reacting to something. They'll say, hey, I've got a leader who's out of character. We're not sure what's going on. Or we will have a board in a nonprofit that will say, our executive director needs some coaching. Would you be available, Miss Stone? And I'm like, okay, what does that mean? So what I do is I go into the organization. I literally have conversations. So the way that conflict resolution works is by way of questions. So there's an entire funnel with thousands upon thousands of questions that I pull from, and we just have a conversation. So I'm really getting to know you, getting to know your pain points, getting to know the things that are your triggers, and then also finding the culture itself. So I'm a Googleologist. I know all of us should be Googleologists. And so I go and find out what I need to know a lot of times online before I ever have that conversation. So I go to all of the spaces where the employees are talking about the organization. They really have spaces where they talk about you. I'll go to their personal and private spaces, find out what I can about the institutional identity of the organization. And that consists of all the ways and things that people are. We have core values, but sometimes we don't live them. And so I find that information first, and then I just start having conversations with many people in the organization and those who have left the organization. And then I sit down with you and ask you for your plan of action, or what can I do for you?
You just triggered something when you said you would be advising nonprofits dealing with an executive director. Having served in the nonprofit world for 20 plus years, I can relate.
Bless
but
you.
Here's where the key may be. This might open up a whole new area for you. It's imperative to ask the right questions by a board of an applicant for the role of executive director. Not necessarily, what have you done to raise money? Well, that's a strategic question, and that's a strategic answer. But to what degree do you have the time, effort, and knowledge to conduct an interview with an applicant and start to see what makes them tick? And probably the initial interview, it actually goes one step further. When you create the job description, advertising for a person, what words are you putting in there that says, you know, if you don't enjoy working with people, but you enjoy working with numbers, you're not our man or lady. To what degree, I mean, I use a word often that I love caring people, C-A-R-I-N-G, a person that truly cares about others. If I'm hiring an employee, I want a caring employee. You can learn the skill, you can learn the technology, you can learn the procedure, but unless you have a person who truly cares about others, fellow employees, customers, clients, and so forth, you have to do that at the beginning.
Correct.
And it's so important. It's so important. What have been some of the more traditional causes of conflict between people? That's not a bad dissertation topic. Can you identify, are there strategies and techniques to identify the causes of conflict between people, whether it's in a marriage, whether it's in a corporation, whether it's conflict between longtime friends. What are some of the causes of conflict besides, and I'll throw the first one out, misinformation?
Yes, that is a very big one. Yeah, you're exactly right, Dr. Kraus, because conflict comes to people in different ways, and sometimes they don't even realize they're in conflict. So conflict starts with barriers like time. Sometimes it's a report. I'm a very detailed, task-oriented person, and I may have someone who's a little more on the relational side. And the fact that they don't have a report when they come into a meeting with me is immediate conflict. And so we have these conversations. That also spills into the personal side, like you said, with your mate, not understanding their love language.
Yes.
And you come in with a gift, and they just want you to sit there with them and rub their feet. You know, it's that communication. So until we understand where we
there's
are.
a song to that when you rub the feet. It's called Toe Long. It's been nice to know you. All right. Okay, moving on. I hear the laugh from another room again.
I love it. I love it. So yes, it's those things. So, you know, and it's funny that you just did that, because humor plays a significant role in managing conflict. Humor can be used to soften the blow. And it also can be used to transform someone from a state of anger to one of just joy.
Laugh with, not laugh at.
Exactly.
Hey, boy, unbelievable. So, one word that probably pops up when you're dealing with conflict, and I think, and I've seen this with employees over the many, many years I've managed organizations, public or nonprofit. Thing called jealousy. Jealousy between fellow employees. Somebody gets a promotion. Jealousy between who you are and your supervisor. Why is my supervisor driving a 2024 car and I'm driving an old junker? Why is my supervisor enjoying all these financial realities of life and I'm barely making it from paycheck to paycheck? Jealousy can become a real deep division. How would you resolve an issue of jealousy?
Oh my goodness, that's in every client. So we did not even rehearse this. I'm across 6 industries, 3 continents, and jealousy is one of the key things that I hear in every situation, regardless of the size of the organization. And what it comes from is another one of those barriers: lack of information, lack of process, lack of knowledge, unclear roles and responsibilities, loose boundaries.
Correct.
Because what happens, I can't be held accountable for something that I don't know that I need to be accountable for or to. I can't have you as my boss and I don't understand what I'm supposed to do, and you come in and give me a review, and then I'm like, why did I get a 3? I'm a 5. And so, you know, we talk about biases. That's what I do with a lot of people. We do a self-assessment first at ABC. We look at their biases. And so even as leaders, before a board chooses a candidate, I have them go through a bias check. What is your trigger? What is your blind spot? Some people have, especially some of my friends in HR, shout out to all the HR folks.
Yes.
We have a halo effect where we love a candidate because they're very similar to us. And we will go in that interview and we'll say, yeah, this is a person for it. Dawn is the right person for this job, knowing that my credentials may match or be less than the other candidate. So you have to watch those biases. They show up. The affinity, confidence. There are so many others that we have that show up, and that creates a lot of the conflict. And we do have this thing of generational bias. Okay, there's a whole word for that. But a lot of people feel that it's time for the old people to sit down.
Yes.
And I'm giving you straight quotes from where people have said that. Well, they don't know what they're doing. Okay, so who defined that? When there's, and you know, I go to the bylaws, especially a nonprofit. What do your bylaws say? Give me your bylaws and let's see if you're following these. They go, well, we're not doing that. Correct. So again, those are the drivers of conflict: that lack of process, that time, that lack of focus, different personalities, different expectations, generational differences, trauma in your own life. Sometimes people's little 10-year-old shows up in a workplace and starts wreaking havoc because you didn't get attention at 12 or 6. And so now you're like, I don't want this new person showing me up. And so I'm going to do something to get them in return.
But there are some things you can't control.
Absolutely.
And I think one of the things I've always taught in human resources,
Mhm.
You have applied for a job.
Yes.
Your resume and background information has met or exceeded the criteria, and now you go for the interview. And you're being interviewed, and can be a nonprofit or for-profit organization. And you're being interviewed, and you walk into the room, and there's 3 people sitting across from you on a table. And one person whispers to another person, "Boy, Dawn looks just like Mary. She's a dead ringer from Mary." And you better ask yourself, did Mary leave on good terms or bad terms?
Right.
If you remind somebody of an employee, and a lot of people look a lot alike, believe it or not. I think we all have twins or triplets in this world. And you remind a interview board that you're another Mary, and we can't have another Mary in the organization.
Yep.
My gosh, no matter how many doctorate degrees, 25, 30 years of successful experience, you're not going to be hired. So not only is it the physical appearance, it's just your general attitude. Here we go back again of how you carry yourself. And everybody reminds somebody of everybody else, good, bad, or indifferent.
That's that confirmation bias, Dr. Kraus.
Exactly. And when you serve as a spark plug, as a keynote speaker, and you've done a lot of that over the years, what do you expect, and what, maybe you may remember this or not, what's the largest group you ever spoke to? Do you recall?
3,000.
3,000. Did you always look at the person in the last row?
You know, in a room that large, because this was when I was a graduate student at the University of Tennessee, I was speaking at a fundraiser, and I couldn't see anything but those lights. And so that helped.
Okay. So you didn't see the eyeballs.
I couldn't see a thing.
My largest was 17,000.
Oh,
and I tried to look at the eyeballs of the people at the very end, and we didn't have lights. It was an outdoor stadium.
Okay.
And the query becomes, how do you reach out to people in a speech? And this is not public speaking as a example, but how do you create a message to keynote to a particular group that you're speaking to? Do you want to motivate them? Do you want to excite them? Do you want to encourage them? Do you want to urge them? What are your primary objectives in sharing your leadership, conflict resolving, motivation, strategies, and techniques with others?
So it's so funny you should say that. My keynote, and I'll tell you, 5 years ago, I wasn't this authentic of a person. I was very fake.
We're always growing.
And so, absolutely. I love that. See, that's why I love you. So what I had to do was literally make myself vulnerable. And so my audience, someone in that audience was a version of me at some point. And so I speak from a lived experience. So if you think about the analogy of a tree, right? I'm rooted in who I am and who I've been, but I have grown into the person I'm becoming.
Is your bark worse than your bite?
Absolutely.
Your bark, tree?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry about that.
It is.
Okay.
I got it. I was trying to think of which tree I was.
I didn't hear mother at that time.
You know what? And so the fun thing, I'm a weeping willow. So the weeping willow tree bends, moves, ebbs and flows, and can withstand some of this tornadic wind that we have here in Tennessee.
Absolutely. Well, it has been more than a personal and professional pleasure. It has been an opportunity to hear insight from a person out there who is reaching out to corporations, organizations, and individuals to make life better and life more productive. One more time with the phone number.
It's Dawn Stone, 615-602-6266. Follow me on @TheConflictChick.
And from dawn, we go to the sunset of this morning's program. I will see you all next week. Goodbye.
Thank you so much.